I know it's early in the morning, and I know that I can't go live on YouTube right now, but fuck YouTube. I can go live on Twitter. I am so fucking happy right now. We have re-signed Donovan Mitchell to a 3-year, $150.3 million contract extension per Shams and Adrian Wojnarowski. You guys know we love seeing these. We love seeing these happen. I cannot fucking believe it's finally here. All of this free agency just nonchalance by the Cavaliers, and if that's what you even want to call it, because we just don't have a lot of room to work with in regards to our cap space. We are right up against the first apron, $5.5 million away from it, if I'm not mistaken. But this has made it all worth it. This has made it all worth it. Yes, I get it. It is not a 4-year extension. There are definitely caveats to this, but getting the man signed on the dotted line for longer than he was previously available for in Cleveland is a win, in my opinion. That $150.3 million extension includes a player option for the 2027-28 season. So he's here longer, right? We knew that the extension that he was previously on, the player option was for 2025, 26. And so there was no real way that he was going to not be in Cleveland this, not for the 2024-25 season. But getting him on a longer term extension feels good. It feels good. I am so glad that they got this shit done, because now we can put to bed all this speculation with not having him, right? I was so tired of teams and rumors being thrown out left and right about pursuing him, right? Whether it was New York, which we know that speculation ended with the Bridges trade, whether it was Brooklyn, whether it was Miami or the Lakers or anybody else. I'm just so glad that we don't have to deal with that speculation for now. I get it that his job is not over. Just because the contract extension that has been signed does not guarantee anything. I understand that he is not necessarily just going to be okay with whatever we got. But listening to the Kobe Altman and Kenny Atkinson press conference yesterday where they introduced Kenny, I felt good about the direction that this franchise is heading in. They didn't let anything slip. I'm sure that the writing was already on the proverbial wall prior to signing this extension. They've been negotiating probably since the finals were over. But at the end of the day, I feel good, man. I feel really, really good. It makes not having not any free agent signings for this period feel good. All these names that we kept seeing going off the board, it makes it worth it. Now, it doesn't change the situation, right? You still have the core four. You still have Darius Garland. You still have Donovan Mitchell. You still have Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And there are still issues and concerns to be worked out, whether that's the front court spacing, the smallish backcourt, still needing a player that is bigger out at the wing at the three. These are still some real needs. And you still need a backup 4-5. These are all very, very real needs. But just being able to have your number one guy under contract, that's big news to me. Loki Von Doom says, now can they announce Luke Travers, Supermax, JK? Look, man, I can't wait till Summer League, because Luke Travers is one of the guys, if you guys have been following the channel for any period of time, that I'm actually very, very high on. I think that he could be a plug and play kind of glue guy out there. He doesn't necessarily shoot the three ball all that well, but everything else that man does, it's winning basketball. He balled out for Melbourne United this year. I love it. As Loki says down here, I know he is young and still pretty raw, but watching some footage on him, and that is who he reminds me of. I love Luke Travers, so I hope that is the case. I hope that he gets brought over. He could be a cost-effective option for the Cavaliers, considering we just don't have a lot to work with. Again, I believe with the Isaac Okoro cap hit of $11.8 million, along with the Jalen Tyson rookie contract, the Cavs are just $5.5 million above, under the first apron, if I'm not mistaken. So time will definitely tell. But man, this feels good. It's a great way to start the morning. I can't wait. Michael Wolfer says, what do you think about what Kenny said about Mobley and how he is going to run him? Now, Evan, there wasn't a lot given away yesterday from Kenny about how he's going to be used, but I did like the comment about getting the ball in his hands more, operating with more pace, and potentially having him. He even made a comment yesterday during that presser about Evan running pick and rolls. And I'm just like, okay, the handle needs a little bit of work, but I see the vision here. And so this is what entices me about Kenny Atkinson, because the player development aspect of his time in Brooklyn is woefully underrated, in my opinion. He got career seasons out of Karis LeVert, out of D'Angelo Russell of all people. Jared Allen. There's countless others. Damari Carroll. I mean, he even had Jared Dudley playing some decent basketball. There are definitely some aspects of that player development that are lost on people. And so if people still question why this man was hired, just look no further than how some of these guys are going to be used. Now, again, there wasn't a lot given away about how he's going to be used or the specifics of the type of offense that it's going to be run, but they did hint to yesterday the pace, the increased three-point attempts, that was talked about, that was referenced. The way in which some of these guys are going to be used. I know one of the biggest questions that people are wanting to hear about was how Kenny was going to figure out how to best use the front court with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. What I loved about his answer yesterday was in reference to their speed, like their sheer speed, how quick Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley can run the floor. And so in a motion-based offense, I think you're going to see a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff that you like. And for me, I was a fan of JB Bickerstaff, and I'm happy that he got an opportunity, another one with Detroit, because I think that's a perfect spot for him. But clearly the runway was out. He was just in over his head at a certain point in time. But from an offensive perspective, Kenny Atkinson is miles ahead. The slow pace that we operated with, I believe we operated with a bottom six pace for the past 3 seasons under JB. With Kenny Atkinson, that is definitely going to change. We could be operating with a top 5, top 10-ish pace. We could see those three-point attempts increase. And for me, if you're not able to move off of Jarrett Allen and find yourself a front court mate beside Evan Mobley who can space the floor, or a bigger wing off of a trade like that, then the next best case for me is to start having these guys put up some triples. Most notably Evan Mobley, who, if just an interesting stat, he shot, if I'm not mistaken, he took three or more triples in a game 5 times last season, shooting about 39% on them. So it's possible. The volume just wasn't there throughout the entirety of his 50-game season. So I will look for that number to increase. I think that you're going to see an uptick, a serious uptick in his triples per game, especially if they're not able to move off of Jarrett Allen. You have to find creative ways to be able to get more spacing. And Evan Mobley has shown that he has the skill set to shoot that ball. So I think Kenny's going to get the most out of him. We'll see. Michael Wolfer says, you think Kobe going to start making moves now Donovan's extended? Not necessarily. I mean, it's possible. Maybe we see maybe now that we know that Donovan Mitchell is under extension, maybe they start to parcel the market a little bit more for trades for anybody else, right? Except for Evan Mobley. Maybe we do see a Jarrett Allen trade. Maybe we do see a Darius Garland trade. But based upon what was said in yesterday's press conference, I do not think that any of the core 4 is going anywhere. Maybe they entertain a trade for Karis LeVert or George Niang. Probably not, because that's Don's boy, right? I don't know. Multiple things could be on the table, but at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think there's going to be a ton of movement. And if there is no trade made, then you're probably likely still to see little additions on the margins. Again, with the Okoro cap hit and the Bates possible re-signing, that leaves the Cavs, if I'm not mistaken, just $5.5 million away from hitting that luxury tax line, or at least the first apron. It's all a bit confusing for me. I'll admit I am not a cap guy, but they are very, very close. And so they do not have access to the full mid-level exception as it stands right now. They have to figure out what's going on with Isaac Okoro first before they can sort that all out. Time will tell. But if there's anybody that's going to be traded, I think it is most likely LeVert. We will see. Nope says, if those rumors about Garland not wanting to play with Donovan was true, then he out of here. Personally, I just don't see it that way, man. I know a lot of that was coming through Rich Paul, right? And you're going to let your agent do the talking, right? But at the end of the day, it's not like Garland has come out himself and said, you know what, fuck you guys. Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell is taking touches away from me. He stole the team away from me or something like that. I just don't see it happening. Or I don't know. Anything is on the table. I just don't see it happening. I think they can sell, and I think Kenny Atkinson's going to play a huge role in this, obviously, based upon what we heard from him yesterday. But I don't see a world in which Garland is moved this offseason. I think with some of the with some of the contracts that have been handed out during this free agency period, maybe you're like, okay, that DG contract is not necessarily as uneasy on the eyes as it used to be, because a lot of people were looking at that contract like in a straight up albatross, especially coming off the season that he just came off of. But at the end of the day, it's like it's like we forget how good that this dude can actually be. We forget how good this dude can actually be. And I think if there's anybody that can bring out that all-star level player, it's Kenny Atkinson. He can get that guy back. And let's not mistake it. Darius Garland's injuries definitely played a role in his troubles last year, in the confidence issues, in the weight that was lost, 12 plus pounds, in just the timing of it all. And I get it. I'm not trying to use that as a crutch for him, but it's still relative. It's still relative to the situation. And so I would love nothing more, as James Wynn says down here, DG revenge season. I need that shit to happen. I need to see it happen. I can definitely not. I can't wait. And I think that if there's anybody that can sell the core four working, it is Kenny Atkinson. Loki Von Dune says, I'm so ready for the DG revenge tour. I am. My wife gets on me all the time. I think I mispronounce that word all the time. Tour. I don't know, man. Michael Wolford says, if Allen get traded, I think it's a deadline deal. I think they give it another try. And I think they should. You look at the deal that Isaiah Hardenstein got. You look at some of these other big-time center contracts. Jarrett Allen signed for $20+ million. Well, signed for $20 million a season. That is a bargain contract. That is a bargain contract that he is on. It's been a bargain, frankly, since the day that he signed it. The problem isn't the contract or the money, though. The problem is the fit, right? People consistently question the fit, and rightfully so at points. But if there's somebody that can make it work, if there's somebody that can draw spacing out of these four, it's Kenny Atkinson. If Evan Mobley can take somewhere between three to four triples per game and make 36, 37, maybe 38% of them, I think you start to see the floor open up a lot more for the drivers in Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Karis LeVert, Craig Porter Jr., hell, Jalen Tyson. I'm hyped right now. I'm hyped right now. Arlos Sar says this extension will force people to reassess their negative perception towards the Mitchell trade back then. I think it does. And ultimately, here's the deal. People wanted Kobe Altman fired. Kobe Altman staked his claim with this trade. And now, with Donovan Mitchell signed through at least 2027, 28, you got to give Kobe Altman his props. Man, he hasn't necessarily been the best GM or president of basketball operations now, because you got to throw Mike Gainsey in there, who is the new GM. But he has done his part in bringing a superstar talent to Cleveland. He's brought a top 15 player to Cleveland. And if you listen to what Kenny Atkinson said the other day, man, he's talking about getting this guy as maybe a top 10, top 5 player, that being the next step for Donovan Mitchell. Can you guys imagine Donovan Mitchell taking a top 5 leap, becoming a top 5 player? Like, am I saying it's going to happen? No, but is it possible? Hell yeah. We'll see. And now that he's under contract, we got some time to make it happen, man. We really do. Nope says, I don't think Allen's getting traded. Donovan loves him. Based upon everything we've seen on social media, some of the subliminal context that we have seen from Donovan, yeah, I have no choice but to admit that Donovan Mitchell is a huge fan of Jarrett Allen. And that is not like an omission that's terrible. That's a good thing. Nope says, you think Emoni going to get a chance this year? Honestly, I don't. I think that Emoni is likely going to end up back with the Cavaliers because he is technically a restricted free agent, but he was tendered. So the hope is that he has resigned and he doesn't get like an offer somewhere else. But I don't think anybody's going to throw serious money Emoni's way because he didn't necessarily have the greatest rookie season. The skill set that he has that translates at the NBA level is there. It's apparent. He is a sharpshooter, a catch and shoot dynamo. If he can get better in a few different areas, if he can become serviceable on the defensive end, if he can become a better rebounder, if he can move the ball a little bit better, there's a spot for him as a spot up shooter in the initial rotation. But that is not likely to happen, in my opinion, at least for a Cavaliers team in 2024-25 that is probably going to want to try its hand at contending. There's just not enough space right now. We're not in that avenue. And when you look at the players in line ahead of him, I just don't see it happening. And I guess that kind of depends upon what you view him positionally as. Like right now, I consider him a big ass 2, maybe a 3, but he just doesn't have the weight on him right now. And he's just not good enough defensively to stay with threes. Maybe if you consider him a 3, by all means, that's fine. He has certain qualities that could put him in that direction, but in those spots right now, he is contending with Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert, Jalen Tyson, Craig Porter Jr., to name a few. Ty Jerome is still on the roster. We don't know if Isaac Okoro will be back. Mack Strus is still there. Sam Merrill is still a part of the equation here. George Niang, Dean Wade. I just don't see him beating out any of those guys. So, no. I know that's a long-winded answer, but I don't think he'll get a real opportunity. Like, I think they'll give him a chance if he returns. I just don't think he'll actually get that chance or sees it. Loki Von Noom says, do you think they bring back Isaiah? Yeah, I think they kind of have to because they just don't have a lot of avenue to bring in a 4-5 that can actually space the floor or has shown the ability to do so. The ones that are still on the board that are still out there to me, you still have Darius Saric, who just spent last season with the Golden State Warriors, who put up averages of 8 points, 4.4 rebounds, 2.3 assists, while knocking down 37.6% of his dribbles on decent volume at 3.1 attempts at over 17.2 minutes per game. I think he'd be a solid fit in the front court as a third big. He's still an option out there. Precious Achua, he still looms large. He may be underwhelming as a floor spacer, but he is definitely willing to take that shot, and he's a solid rebounder. His positional versatility. Taurean Prince is out there. Gordon Hayward would make sense. Kyle Anderson, as of going live here, I don't know. Maybe he signed since Donovan Mitchell has. Robert Covington can play the 3 or the 4. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that Isaiah is probably brought back, not only because of Evan Mobley, but because they just have no real avenue to bring in a real option. And Isaiah could come cheap, and it would certainly help with Evan, right? DJ Burns, I see DJ Burns is listed in here, who we're all excited to see in Summer League. Maybe he takes a spot. It could be wishful thinking, but I don't know, man. You never really know what they're going to end up doing. But if I had to bet right now, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would say that Isaiah Mobley is probably back in wine and gold in the for the 2024-25 season. But man, it just feels good. It feels so good to see that notification come by because I was already up there and working on some content for possible free agents for the Cavs after just having just such a shit day in regards to no signings and and not being able to hold on, baby, 1 second. And not being able to have anybody brought in day 1 and day 2 of free agency. But this makes it all the more worth it, man. It feels good. It feels good. I can't wait to see the all of the comments across the NBA landscape in regards to Donovan Mitchell, because I kept all the receipts just like you guys. We saw everybody talking shit about whether or not this team was going to be able to re-sign Donovan. And damn it, I'm going to take my victory lap, and people are just going to have to be okay with that, because it's not every day that you get to sign a top 15 player in a market like Cleveland. And no, that's not me crapping on Cleveland. That is me saying and keeping it real. We're not typically a market that a top 15 player would look at and say, hey, that's where I want to be for a couple of years. It's just not the case unless you're LeBron. Loki Von Doom says, I never thought he was leaving. Neither did I. I remain convinced. I remain convinced that when he resigned, that when he was traded here, that he would end up resigning. Just too much to pass on in terms of pure talent in the core. And I think that when he looked across the NBA landscape, the teams that could actually offer him money from that aspect, not great situations. The teams that could actually contend would have had to have traded for him, and they would have had to give up some assets to do that. So maybe the move probably wouldn't have been as appealing as it would be as to just sit here and resign and see what a new coach in Kenny Atkinson can bring to the table. Because I could understand if you're Donovan and you're looking at the way that the last season ended under JB, and you're like, you know what? I just don't think we can contend with the Bostons or the New Yorks of the world. But in saying that, if you look at how they were ousted in those 5 games, it was without Donovan for the most part. It was without Jarrett Allen for all of the Boston series. Dean Wade was hurt. There are a couple of other names that should be mentioned here, but at the end of the day, if they stayed healthy, they may very well have given Boston a 6 or 7 game series. And I think that's enough. Under JB, you're thinking, okay, maybe this is as good as it gets. But under Kenny Atkinson or a new offensive minded coach, it could be better. And I think it will be better moving forward. And I think this is reason to celebrate. So I don't know about you guys. It's early as hell. I might go out and celebrate already. But we'll see, man. I'm so damn excited about this. And maybe this will kick off a couple of moves for Cleveland, because we had to know that they were waiting this out with Donovan, waiting his extension before he signed his extension before they decided to move on from anybody else in the current 4. I don't think the core is going to be moved, but I have to acknowledge now that he is fully signed for the next couple of seasons, that it is on the table. With Kenny Atkinson in town, I think that you're probably going to see the core 4 return for at least one more season, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that you're going to see anybody from the core 4 being moved. But hell, anything could happen. I don't think there's anything else to say. I had to get that all out. I'm feeling much better about this offseason. I hope you guys are too. If you're watching over on Twitter, go ahead and give a follow. I can't go live on YouTube right now for the next couple of for at least the next 90 or so days due to that strike. But do me a favor, go over there and follow or subscribe rather. And when I drop the video, make sure to throw me a like or something like that. But man, this is good. This is awesome stuff. And I'm glad that we finally have some clarity on the direction that this franchise is heading in. More moves could be made. Keep your eyes open and go Cavs.